Hi, this is Bill Rice on behalf of Age Lead Store, and today we're going to talk about creating a solar lead sales plan. I think this is going to be helpful for those of you that are just getting into solar, working as a solar installer or solar sales rep, or those folks who have been doing this for a while, because there is so much to be gained from just sort of building a good sales plan and mentally and physically writing down on paper or building it in Notion or Google Doc or whatever the case is, just putting it down on paper, that plan, that business plan that will get you to the goals that you set for yourself. So we're going to do that sort of step by step today with the Solar Leads sales plan. So we're going to talk about the leads themselves. We're going to talk about the sales plan. We're going to talk about how to sort of put it all together. As far as the opportunity, and I'm going to reference some other videos, and you're going to see as you watch this video, there's going to be some other suggestions from YouTube. There are some great companion videos to what I'm going to present today. So I want you to engage with those other creators on YouTube and those other people with specific experience in selling solar. So today I'm going to come at this from more of a sales and marketing planning perspective, because that's the perspective that we look through at Age Lead Store, right? We're generating the leads and we're selling the leads, and so that's kind of our experience. But I think it's valuable to put all this together in paper because it's really going to help you build the business plan that's going to get you to those objectives. So encourage you to continue to watch those suggested videos and learn from some of these other creators and practitioners in the solar space. So the first thing that I like to start with, because again, it's super useful just to put it down on paper. And you can see even here, I'm kind of sharing with you the way that I crafted this, right? So I'm sort of taking you on the inside. I like to do things a little less formal, so you can actually see how I put these things together and the logical pattern with which we can build these type of plans. I'm a systems guy, and so I always think in terms of building out systems, and it's really easy to document it. And anyway, so you're going to walk along with me as I build out this solar sales plan, as if I were going to start my own business in solar. Okay, so the first thing I need to do is really get a clear picture of who I'm looking to talk to. Who do I want inside of my lead management system, inside of my CRM? And this is going to help you in a lot of ways, right? It's going to help you to have a mental image of the person that you're going to talk to when you're building sales scripts, when you're writing voicemail scripts, when you're building out drip email campaigns in order to sort of prospect against these or follow up or do outreach on these leads. This customer profile will help you to build the right communications and help make it sort of feel natural as you engage them. You won't be surprised by, oh, this is my motivation or this is what I'm trying to accomplish, because you will have already thought through these different types of people. So just at the highest level, and again, this is really helpful at the very top of your business plan, wherever that might live, is to write these people down. And I would go beyond what I've done here. I've kind of bullet pointed some folks here that are generally interested in solar panels and installations. But actually write some descriptions, write some stories, put names on them. Again, anything that makes it come alive to you. If you've been in the business for a while, you can probably actually identify a particular customer, maybe that you're working on or that you've closed in the past that fit into each of these categories. And it can be helpful to put that customer sort of name right on the sheet. So you remember, yeah, that's exactly the way Sally was looking at this when I was talking to her, right? So here's a couple of popular ones. We'll start with residential first, because most of you watching this are probably residential solar installations or schedulers. The investor, right? Somebody who's dollars and cents, working the numbers, and has figured out that solar makes a lot of sense, right? It's a calculated, it's a good investment. And so they're going to, everything that's going to appeal to them is really you going through the numbers, you going through the dollars and cents of adding solar into their power equation, right? Climate change advocates, so folks that are just trying to do the right thing by the climate and within the ecosystem. And so those benefits, those features of the solar installation are going to really appeal to them. So we want to have those in our back pocket. We want to be able to craft those. We want to be able to talk very specifically, right, to some statistics and some actual facts and figures, because again, they're going to be very logical about this as well. So we want to do our best to, and this is why it's good to write this stuff down, because you can gather some research, you can gather some credibility, some third-party sources that reinforce what is already sort of their motivation in even talking about or considering solar, right? Energy independent seekers, so people that just want to be off the grid, want to be in control of their particular energy solution. Again, this is all good to be resourced and thought about beforehand, because again, you can help support them, because they're going to want to know, like, can I become independent? How much will I rely on the grid? What exactly, where does my excess power go? Who am I sharing it with? Who's sharing it with me, right? They're going to want to know if they are actually going to be able to get to that independence. So you need to do your research ahead of time and build that into the persona as you're practicing and building out your sales plan and your scripts, right? The tech enthusiast, this is going to be the harder one. You're going to have to do a little research and study, and you have to get down to the nitty gritty, because they've probably already done the research, right? They're going to test you a little bit. They're going to make sure that you know your stuff, and your credibility from a technical standpoint is probably what's going to win the day with these. So again, it's good to think through all of these different scenarios. If you're going after some bigger fish in the commercial end of things, again, this is all good to do research. You want to go in prepared, because you're going to, in all of these categories, even these big commercial categories, it's going to be easy for you, thank you internet, right, to do some research to really figure out why they're considering these types of solutions, and help you to prepare the facts, the figures, the logic pattern that they're going to need, so that they can get emotionally excited about actually doing the deal with you, right? So research each of these categories, right? Solar developers, people that are trying to develop, entire grids of solar solutions and solar energy contribution, right? The big utilities, right? They're trying to they're all have some sustainability, motivation inside of their business model, or have some sustainability vision already laid out. Figure out what that is, figure out how you can be a part of helping them achieve that, right? Commercial, industrial, government, nonprofits, these are big organizations that are always being asked to cut cost. And so solar could be part of that equation, or invest in sustainability, which again has become sort of a political hot button, right? So all of these things factor in, and of course other power producers. So it's really important that you consider, you take a fair amount of time to sketch these out, really talk through the scenarios, think through the arguments, the objections, just even the conversation, the discussion that you will have. This is also great for role playing. When you pull your plan back up and you're role playing with other team members, you can say, hey, here you go. I want you to be a climate change advocate. Hey, I want you to be a calculated investor. And so it makes for great sales training material and role playing and to help you equip whoever you're kind of working with. Do it with a spouse or friend or whatever. They don't even have to be in the business, right? Because you've built out a good, strong persona and say, hey, act like this person, right? So we're going to talk a little bit more about how you can actually get a ready, consistent supply of these people that fit exactly these descriptions, right? Because they've already shown intent. They've already shown an interest in solar as a product and a service that you offer. And so one of the easiest ways, the most economical ways, is of course Age Lead Store, and that's who we are. So it would behoove me to make a quick introduction as to what we are and how we do things, right? So just simply going into Age Lead Store, there's a whole bunch of different resources here, articles, sales training, like we talk about inside of this video, and this being an example of it, right? There's all kinds of different sales training opportunities. Definitely encourage you to grab some of our guides, sign up for our newsletter so you can stay on top of things or whatever. But the most important thing, of course, is just to fill your database with opportunities to use some of these strategies, and in particular, in this case, solar. So we have, like I said, Age Leads, about $1 a piece. Right? So it makes them the most affordable way to fill your database. And then it's super easy, right? We make it easy. It's kind of an e-commerce sort of approach. You can just simply say, hey, what kind of leads you're looking for? You can talk about the particular states. Let's go after Arizona, the big ones, right? Talk about the states that you're looking for opportunities in, and then you can just run a count, right? And this is going to tell you right now in Arizona and California, we've got 7,000 leads. Doesn't necessarily mean you need to take 7,000 leads, right? Maybe you only want to, practice. Some of these techniques that we're going through in this video, you only want about 500. So you can subset that. You can add them to your cart. Of course, register in there and then go ahead and order those anytime. As soon as you order them, as soon as you place that order, you put your credit card in there, you place that order, you're going to instantly have them available inside of the store, inside of your account. And so you can get to work on them immediately. There's no waiting. There's no calling somebody and asking for leads and waiting for them to go chase them down. Literally just delivered to you instantly. So anyway, that's the easiest source of these kind of people, these kind of personas. They're internet leads. They filled out a form. They've said that they're interested in a call. There's just simply a little bit of age on them, which makes it easy for us to give them to you at a really affordable rate. So let's get back to kind of building this plan. So we're going to use that. The reason I kind of introduced you to that, one, is to show you how you can quickly build up enough of a database to even have a shot at meeting your goals, right? Because getting the leads is usually the hardest part, right? You're kind of working through those leads. We have a lot of training and that sort of thing, and that's just sheer effort. But sometimes it's hard to get the leads, right? You don't want to be chasing things down. You don't want to be turning yourself into a marketing expert. So we introduce you to that, but we're going to use that fact in building out the second part of the plan. And so the plan is, what is that solar marketing plan? What is the plan to actually source in leads? Well, like I showed you, buying leads is the easiest and fastest. You can literally do that today and start working leads and closing deals same day with age leads or buying leads. But of course, you want to do the math, right? So you can use something like this little tool that I built, and you can get access to at Age Lead Store. But and you could do this on paper, right? You can do it yourself. You can just write this down and run the numbers. So it's so important when you're building out a goal to run the numbers to figure out, whether or not you can actually accomplish those goals. Because too often what we do is we actually set a big, bold, audacious goal, but we don't really think about, okay, what is it going to take on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis, in order for me to accomplish that goal. So we need to break it down into those smaller components, and then of course build the habits around accomplishing that thing. And then of course we have to again do the math, do the dollars and cents. Can we actually afford to execute this plan? And that's what sometimes drives what we do for marketing, right? Whether or not we buy real-time leads, or whether or not we buy age leads, or whether or not we might actually invest in marketing or somebody to help us with marketing, right? And I'm going to take you through all of those scenarios. But a nice little spreadsheet like this, or just doing this kind of math, makes it really simple for you to figure out whether or not your goal is attainable, right? So this particular spreadsheet just does a simple set of math equations, and I did it in a spreadsheet because I like to compare things, right? I want to compare, hey, if I get a 1% conversion on whatever my lead source is, or maybe I get a 10% conversion, what's the difference, right? Whether I used age leads or real-time leads, obviously the biggest difference is the price per lead, right? And so I want to kind of think about that as well. So in order to go through this scenario, I say, hey, I want to make about $5,000 every single month. Let's say my commission, again, these are all your assumptions, so you can put in your real numbers here. Let's say I make $500 on an appointment or an install, scheduled install, whatever that might be. Put that in there, and so then I figure out, hey, in order to make this per month, and I'm getting this commission, then that means, I need to close 100 deals, right? Obviously, this math changes significantly depending on, that's not correct math, actually. Somehow I overwrote that. So there we go. Okay, that makes more sense. I only need 10, right? So I'm going to get 10 deals a month. I'm going to go ahead and assume, so I'm sort of backing into this. You can do this both ways, right? You can actually say, hey, I've got this many leads. Now, what can I expect to generate in revenue given certain assumptions? Or I can say, hey, I want to make this much revenue this month. I want to make this much commission. I want my check to look like this, and I can back into how many leads I need. So I kind of did it to back into how many leads I need, because that's usually where we kind of fall down on. Like, we know, hey, I want this much money. I need this much money in revenue to kind of meet my goals or meet my quota. I need this many units. I know that, but I don't know how many leads I need to get me there. And this isn't even just buying leads. I just need to know I have this many people, this many opportunities inside of my database that I can call on in order to hit my number. And do I have enough to even make that number possible, right? So I'm going to have some assumptions, or ideally, if you've been doing this for a little bit, you're going to know what your conversion rate is. Hey, when I call a person, what is the percentage chance that I'm actually going to turn them into a deal? And you can just simply run that report against your past activity, or you can make some assumptions there using a different lead source. I will tell you, with age leads, you can usually expect to be around this 3% range, right? So this is kind of not the greatest salesperson here. This is probably a really good salesperson at the age lead level. But we do have some people using systems and automations, which we'll talk about a little bit, that can get as high as this, right? And you can show this really changes your economics, right? If I get a 1%, I can make $5,000. Get a 10%, I'm making $50,000. So with the same amount of leads, 1,000 leads. But this math basically allows me to back into this and figure out, at about $1 a lead, which we saw that when we looked at the Age Lead Store. I need 1,000 leads. It's going to cost me about $1,000 a month. But assuming that I can get a deal out of 1% of these, and I'm getting paid $500 for each closed deal, I'm going to make my $5,000. And this is where the ROI and sort of the affordability of age leads helps out a lot compared to sort of real-time leads, right? Because an age lead is only about $1. This is $45, on average. Some of them can be even more costly. If you're doing live transfers, you could be into the hundreds of dollars each, right? Theoretically, your conversion can get a little bit better, but let's just say it gets, a lot better. We're just barely, look at the ROI of this versus this, right? We're just barely making a profit here, right? So I spent $45,000 to get 50, right? And I cleared my 5,000, right? In this particular case, I only have to spend 1,000, and for every dollar I spend, I get 5 back, right? So I'm clearing 4,000. So I'm clearing a little bit less, but I'm making a lot more, right? So I don't have to spend 45,000 in order to get 50, right? I can just spend 1,000 and get my 5 and take away by 4, right? And you can, of course, play with these numbers all you want in a spreadsheet like this. But, and again, compare them side by side. So that's the first step in building the business plan, is just figuring out what my goal is and figuring out whether or not and how I'm going to get there step by step. Okay. So we talked a lot about leads, because again, that's the simplest way. If you're new, that's where I would definitely start, right? Because one of the things about using sort of more traditional marketing techniques, right, is you're using those in order to get a lead, right? You're basically investing in something, or you're investing your time, or you're spending a lot of time trying to figure out how to market in such a way to actually generate the lead that you could buy off the shelf, right? And so sometimes that makes sense. It definitely makes sense if you've been in the business for a while and you're starting to, you want to build your own capability and your own sustainability. Maybe you'll actually hire somebody, maybe an agency, or maybe you'll hire an individual who knows how to do some of these things and help you do that, so that you kind of have your own lead flow. You'll probably still always supplement it a little bit by buying leads, just so you can kind of have that scale in there. But sometimes that makes sense. But when it doesn't make sense is when you're trying to learn and become really proficient and effective at your sales approach. You're building scripts, you're practicing, you're trying to become more effective, you're trying to increase your conversion rate, all things that directly impact your revenue as a salesperson, right? If then you layer on top of that becoming a marketing expert so that you can actually get the leads, that can be problematic, right? And it can actually be as expensive or more expensive than just buying leads, right? Because you're going to have kind of figure out the expertise, but you're still going to have to outlay money to try to get some of that, whether it's time invested in building content, which is a really slow way. Maybe you're going to put some dollars in Google Ads or Facebook marketing. All those things, you're still going to outlay some dollars, and then you're going to have to be good enough to actually get the end product, right? The lead. So all of these things are to be considered and probably to be layered in as you start to scale. Maybe as you're going to add people to your team, or you're going to build out your own sort of solar company, or your own solar sales team. Makes a ton of sense. So I want to introduce you to these other alternatives, but again, probably lead buying is going to make the most sense if you just want to get started and start turning some revenue and start building some revenue into your business, right? But there are other types. Obviously, social media. The one thing to consider about social media is it's kind of an interrupt marketing, right? You know this. We've all been on Facebook, and you're just kind of scrolling through. You're kind of mindless. Your brain's sort of turned off, and then essentially the way that social media marketing works is you're going to insert an offer for solar. And so that might trigger them to go, oh, that's interesting. I'm curious about that. Maybe I should consider it. I've never really thought about it. Love to understand more, maybe do a little research or whatever, but they're so high in that funnel, to get them all the way to a deal can be somewhat difficult. So social media is one that everybody always thinks about, but probably is not going to be as productive as some of these other channels, right? Going to the search marketing, right? So they're actually searching for solar. They're saying, hey, what's the cost of a solar installation? Or is a solar installation, a good thing to do in Maryland, right? Or whatever the case may be. So they're actually searching. There's some indication that they're looking at solar in that search, and you can capture those through Google Ads, SEO, blog content. Again, some of those are shorter. The paid channels like Google Ads are always going to be quicker because you pay them money and you actually get those clicks. SEO and blogs, kind of what we call an earned channel, and so it's going to take a little bit longer. But you can do other things that are kind of creative. You can host webinars and workshops. You can do free consultations and estimates. Kind of walk through neighborhoods and do some things like that. So there's some kind of just good, old-fashioned shoe leather and sweat that you can do to generate some of these leads and deliver some of these educational content. And then the last one I want to talk about just a little bit is email marketing. So email marketing should always be a component, even if you're buying leads. You want to put these drip email campaigns for outreach and ongoing contact and lead nurturing. Set up these email marketing, so these regular emails that can be automated, that you can pre-write and let those go out so that you can constantly be talking to these customers and engaging with them while you're doing sort of higher value things like actually doing consultations and being in the home and presenting. Those are the things that you want to spend most of your manual time on, and let things like email and stuff automate some of those other sales activities. Okay, so let's assume whether you're buying leads or you're looking at lead sources, maybe there's a whole bunch of old leads sitting in your company's CRM and they're going to give those to you or let you use those, or maybe you got a list from somebody, maybe another solar sales agent or something like that. So whatever the case may be, these are good questions to think about when you're considering the lead source or the leads that you're going to work. And you want to consider these questions for a couple reasons. One, they're going to help you build the scripts so that you're kind of talking to them in a way that they expect you to, right? Because they're in some context. The more you know about how that lead was generated or how they came in contact with you, the better you can kind of personalize your presentation to them so it makes sense. It's like, oh, hey, it looks like a couple months ago you filled out a form on a website and we didn't get to connect, but I'd like to talk to you today and see if you have any questions. They're going to like, oh, okay, yeah, I remember doing that. I remember filling out a form and everything. They're immediately in context and they're starting to listen to you, right? So understanding where the leads come from, whether you're buying them or you're getting from some other source, you should ask that question, and you should know where that lead came from and the context in which it was collected, right? Ideally, any lead that you have, inside of your lead management will have a timestamp on it when that lead was actually generated. Now, this is super helpful, right? One, if you're buying leads, it kind of validates the legitimacy of that was a true lead, right? Somebody actually filled out that form and it got timestamped, and so that's super helpful. But it's really helpful in actually building the personalized sales process. So you noticed in the example script that I used, I said, hey, a couple months ago, if you've got that timestamp inside of your database, you can segment these leads in such a way that you work them in blocks. You can say, hey, here's all my leads that were originated or captured in November. And so I can write an email campaign that says, hey, back in November, you filled out a web form on on such and such website or a website or my website, and we haven't connected yet. Did you get all the information that you were looking for about solar installation? And here's our easy guide, right? And so you can build an email like that because that timestamp and that date. If you're calling, you could say, hey, Susie, this is Bill, and I noticed that you actually filled out a form on our website, get some information back in November, but for whatever reason, we didn't connect. And so that's why I'm reaching out to you today, just to see if you have any questions, get you some updated information, yada, yada, right? You can go from that. Really personalize it, really clicks their brain into the two main things that I always talk about with scripts that you want to answer, particularly if you're working leads. In their mind, they're going to have two immediate objections, right? As soon as they answer that phone call, as soon as they get your email, as soon as they get your text or your voicemail, there's two questions that they're going to want answered immediately, or they're going to just shut you off, right? One is, why are you calling me, right? What's the purpose? Why are you reaching out to me? And that's really easy, right? And most of us incorporate that. But the second one is the one we often forget, and it's the most powerful for creating trust in that relationship right off the bat is, where did you get my information, right? Hey, you filled out a form on the website a couple months ago. They're like, oh, yeah, I did. Okay, so I asked for this, right? I asked for this call, right? So it kind of flips the script there, and it's super helpful. So that timestamp is largely powerful. The other thing, again, whether these are your own leads or you're buying these leads, hopefully there's some cleaning, some verification, and some appending of data to enhance those leads. So you constantly want to be keeping your lead data, that consumer record, being updated, fresh and current, right? If it's in your own database, like every time you come in contact with it, try to verify that information. If talking to them on the phone, it's like, hey, I have this address. Is that still a good address? I have this email. Is it still a good email? You're going to be validating the emails as you send out emails. But you can actually engage third-party services as well to append and update information. If you're buying from a lead provider, you should ask that question. Are they doing that sort of thing? Are they trying to keep their consumer record as updated and as complete as possible? And hopefully they are. That's a sign of a good lead provider. And then, do you get a complete consumer record? And when I say a complete consumer record, ideally that is, of course, the name, the email and the phone number, but also the address, maybe multiple phone numbers. And what that's going to do is it's going to help your campaigns to be more effective. It's also going to give you the ability to do a variety of things with them, right? If you're just given name and email, all you can do is email them, right? If you're given name, email, and phone number, you can actually email them. You can call and voicemail them. You can potentially text message them if you have the correct, permissions and consent. But if you have the address, you can also do things like door knock. You can do some direct mail. You can do some targeting around that. You can start to segment and do a variety of different campaigns with that. So getting as complete a consumer record as possible makes that lead a whole much more valuable to you than just get an email list, right? Ideally, like I said, no lead is perfect, but the cleaner and the more complete that record is, the stronger it'll be, because this whole sales process is really a sorting and filtering exercise, right? So you're going through, you're constantly segmenting, taking little groups of them, working different things, filtering out the people that might not be the right time, and so you're kind of working through all those things. Next thing you're going to want to tackle is setting up your sales and marketing automation. Like I've said a couple different times here, you want to spend most of your time engaging with the customer, right? You want to be doing presentations, you want to be in the home, you want to be on site, you want to be having conversations. Those are things that you want to do and need to be doing manually, and that's the highest value, right? That's the closest to closing the deal. All of these other outreach and contact and scheduling meetings and appointments, you want to try to automate as much of that as possible. And the easiest way to do that is to literally on paper write out that sales journey. Like write, hey, as soon as I get this lead, I want to make a phone call, I want to send out an email, and maybe I want to do a text message. And then 3 days later, I'm gonna draw a little line. 3 days later, I want to send a follow-up email. Hey, did you get a chance? Should we schedule a meeting? Whatever that is. And then maybe 5 or 6 days later, you're going to reach out again and you say, hey, I'd love to schedule a time to kind of walk you through this solution. It looks like you were kind of looking for information. It looks like you're kind of a little bit of a technical person. And so I'd like to work you through the technical aspects of how this could be implemented in your particular home, right? So you're actually crafting that out. You're writing those scripts. You're actually building those emails. And then ideally, you're going to automate as much of that as you can, right? So you may be able to just automate the emails, and that's fine. You're just doing drip emails. So every few days, you're sending out an email that you've pre-written, and it's just going on autopilot, right? You could do a more sophisticated system where, hey, you send out an email, and then it actually builds a task for you to make a phone call. And so you're constantly building this call queue based on the automation that's happening here. Maybe you can do voicemail drops, and you can just automate that, right? You can send out an email, and then maybe a couple days later, you do a voicemail drop, and then another email in the same day, right? And you kind of link those two together in your script and that sort of thing. So again, you want to do as much automation as you can, but even if you can't do automation, you can at least create steps so that you have a clean understanding of that straight line path that you want to take them on in order to get them to the close deal. So a lot of different options here. Your main weapons are going to be email, text message if you can. Again, you got the right consent. You've talked to your internal compliance and legal, and they say it's okay. Certainly phone calling, which ultimately is going to come down to voicemail. So take a look at my voicemail script video. Again, you may then layer into that some sort of more traditional physical thing like direct mail or door knocking. It makes all that work together, right? You can use all of these. You can use digital and sort of this offline traditional door-to-door marketing as well. Particularly in solar, it makes a lot of sense, right? You can see the neighborhood, you can work the neighborhood, you can see who else has already made this investment, you can leverage some of those things. So anyway, that's how you can kind of structure all of that. Then the last step inside of your plan is to literally write and build the solar sales pitches. Now, I'm not going to take you into it. This video is already, kind of hit our time mark. But again, as you look at all the recommendations, you're going to see a lot of different solar scripts, videos, and how to craft pitches and everything. Encourage you to listen to those. Some of them have actual live sales calls. So encourage you to take a look at those. But the most important thing to take away is really to create a script. And I have a more complete video where we'll actually go into building a solar script. But the most important is writing it down, going through those personas, making a script for every persona, and then sort of committing that like an actor to your memory, right? And you want to just practice it over and over and over again and get good at it and make sure that you have those different components in there. A key component of that is, of course, objections. You're always going to get some objections. Pre-think about those. Think about the way that you want to sort of handle that objection and then route them back into that straight line conversation all the way to the close, right? But writing it down will help you think through it. It will help you think through the scenario, just like a professional athlete, right? It'll allow you to visualize that conversation and get really comfortable with that conversation before you go sort of toe to toe with that consumer. Again, encourage you. There's some great videos on here where some professional solar installers and salespeople and appointment setters are walking you through some live calls. So encourage you to take a look at those. Hope you enjoyed this video. Encourage you to subscribe, hit that notification bell so that you can get all of our updates, all of the new training that's coming out from Age Lead Store. And then, of course, encourage you to take a step over to Age Lead Store and grab some solar leads so you can try all of these, as we speak today. You can just simply filter, sort, grab the ones you want, put your credit card in there, order them. They'll drop into you and you can download them as a CSV and upload them straight into your lead management system and start to work on them. If for whatever reason you have difficulty, you can always call and we'll help you do it manually. We'll walk you through it and do the order for you. So anyway, hope you enjoyed this. Check out our other videos and we will see you next time.